Patreon page live Q&A. I'm just setting up, but I wanted to keep that momentum going into the show tonight because I thought it was a really good show on the United Stand, and there's lots and lots of topics that we can bring over into here and talk a little bit more freely because we're in a relaxed environment now in the members club. So let me get the stream up and running. Let's see if we've got anybody actually on the stream as well. Nobody commenting yet, but remember, if you're watching on Patreon, click the video that's live with me now. Stavros is here. Click the video on Patreon that it should be playing now. You'll see a YouTube icon in the bottom right hand corner. Click that and it will bring you through to a private YouTube stream where you can type away and stuff. But I'll be flicking back and forth for the questions as well. But yeah, very interesting evening, and very interesting as well. I mean, I always like to throw questions to you because it's a lot slower, the live comments here. So I'll throw a question to you. I mean, I could see people in the live comments of that United Stand showing saying, oh, you're being very negative. But am I negative? Hello, Benny. Hello, Last Blow Kids. Hello, Matthew McFadden. I know Matthew will tell me the truth. Was that a negative show from me, Matthew, and everybody? Was it? Was I negative? Or, you know, was I right to say that, well, yeah, there probably was negative points to it, but is that not what we are now? It's hard. You see, I think you get accused of being negative at the moment, but the negativity is coming from the club. What is there to be positive about? I mean, I suppose that's a question. What is there to be positive about at the moment when we've got a negative style of football and a manager who doesn't seem that interested? Luke Crocker says, would you rather be able to decide the outgoings, i.e. Martial, Shaw, Pogba, or the incomings at Manchester United this summer? That's a good question. And Bishal says, do you think that it's only our midfield but also our ball playing ability from the back is causing slow static gameplay? And Savic or Fabinho, says Kamya. Savic I would take. I'd like both, but I'd take Savic. Bishal, I personally think the midfield's the problem more than the ball from the back because, yes, it could be sped up from the back, but we move the ball through the midfield so bloody slowly. And partly that is because people like Matic are just so slow. Would I rather be in control of signings or outgoings this year? I'd rather be in control of the outgoings because I wouldn't let Martial and Shaw go. So Mourinho could sign Sandro and whoever he bloody well likes, but Martial and Shaw wouldn't go. It's easy to be negative right now, says Tommy Herald. Accurate comments about Martial, says Tim Shannon. Look, I don't know what anybody else thinks. You know, it's a much slower live comments now, so do get your comments in. But surely that it is on Mourinho that Martial's not going to the World Cup. The lad's on standby. So Deschamps obviously considers him. If he wasn't on standby, I'd go, well, he's not even near it. But being on standby, you've got to think in your head, if he's on standby, he was obviously very close. What would have got him in the squad? Oh, I know. The fact that he hasn't really played from January because Mourinho benched him when he was playing really well. Of course it's on Mourinho, and that's not even an anti-Mourinho thing to say. It's just, it's an easy puzzle to solve, isn't it? Martial would have been in the World Cup squad if he'd been playing for United since January, but Mourinho bought Sanchez and benched him. And if you're Martial, you've got to look at that and go, I would have been going to a World Cup, one of these big events in my life. I would have been going there if my manager trusted me. He doesn't trust me. I must go somewhere else to develop my career. And that's it. It's not about hate, is it? Last Blows Kids says, I just think Matic should only play in the big games, to be honest, because against the weaker teams, it's just too slow. Good point. I mean, we miss Carrick. The ability to take the ball off the back four quickly and move the ball quickly. David Ashwood says it's not negative. It's only negative to people who view it that way because of their mentality. I don't mind talking like this in here because it's much freer and it's much back and forth. But on the United Stand, I've got to wear the United Stand cap, and there's got to be, I hate the word professionalism, but you've got to respect the live comments. You've got to give the both sides. But I do sometimes feel like going, hold on, such and such in the live comments. Please tell us what we've got, why we should be so positive. Is it just blind, let's back Mourinho, let's back Manchester United, let's pretend everything's great because we've finished second? Or do you actually believe that there is a reason to be positive? But you're never going to get the answer back because you're not going to see them on the live comments for 2 minutes because of everyone else buzzing through. But it's like today. I'll throw something in here that I wanted to. I keep a couple of things back for here because obviously it's an exclusive little club, and this could be perceived as being quite negative. So get ready. But it was on a tweet anyway. Manchester United today, Woodward's talking to shareholders about how great we've been on YouTube, right? We're the quickest growing thing on YouTube. Why are we applauding that? We're the last club to go on YouTube. United, when it comes to jumping on a bandwagon, we're always last. So yeah, we might be big on YouTube, but imagine how big we would have been if you'd been on YouTube when every other club was on there. So that's one thing. Then he talks about revenues and how much money we're making. And then you get people on Twitter with big accounts going, United, we make more money than this, that and the other. And people are retweeting it going, yeah, look at how big our guns are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I just thought, well, actually, Man City don't boast about how much money they're making because they spend it. They're not run by shareholders or anything like that. They're run by people who just want Man City to be the best. And they've now made a club that's self-sufficient, but they spent a lot of money and now it's self-sufficient. But that's what they do. All they're interested in is making Manchester City good. Manchester United, we've got fans who think it's great when Woodward says how rich we are and how much money we're making. Do they not realise that Woodward's presenting that like a lackey to the shareholders saying, this is how much money I've made for you, this is going to be your cut this year? That is the ridiculous nature of some of our fans that think it's great when Woodward comes out and says how much money we've got. Because, yeah, we're ridiculously rich. But we, the fans, are making the club ridiculously rich to pay the shareholders. It's not we're making the club rich to make the club better and we're going to spend that money. A small proportion of that money will go to transfers. A vast majority of it is reinvested in debt, shareholders and everything else. And I just think it's a little bit... I think it's a little bit naive, actually. I think fans don't realise that when Woodward does this chat, they love it. They're like, oh yeah, we're number one for this, we're number one for this, we're number one for that. But that is totally for the benefit of the shareholders, yet fans take it on as a badge of honour. When actually it's totally detrimental to the club that all this money we make and all this status we have is there for the shareholders, benefit. It's not for the clubs. It's not. I'll be honest, I expected more subs from United's official channel. 800 to 900,000 subs doesn't seem like much for a huge club. Yes, Matthew, great point there. I mean, we're on YouTube, aren't we, the United Stand? We've got 220,000 subscribers, so they're only 4 times bigger than us after 2 months. I actually was like, I thought they would be well past 1 million by now. And I actually sort of, it's not really impacted on the United Stand, Manchester United being on YouTube. Some people would say it's a good thing because they've brought people to YouTube. I don't necessarily think that they have done yet. I think that's the problem. I think they've just gone on YouTube, they've pumped content out, and they're not really bringing United fans to YouTube. If anything, I think the United Stand is probably... It's growing, but, you'd expect all United content to grow much bigger because of United bringing new people to the platform, and that hasn't materialised, so I don't think they're really investing a lot in it. Let me go back through some comments. Stavros calls me a realist. Truth hurts, pal, says Benny. Not sure any fan wants Martial to leave, says Last Blows Kids. There are, mate. I mean, I would never advise somebody to go on Twitter, but there are plenty of United fans who want him to go. Easy to be negative right now, says Tommy Herald. I think I'd read that. Like Ash said on the podcast, Savic has a Zlatan Ibrahimovic-like style on the ball. Tall guy with a lot of flair and tidy on the ball. Yeah, I do like Savic. Tough deal to do, but I do like him. Last Blow Kids, I just think, Matt, yeah, we've read that one. It's not negative, it's only negative to, yeah, we've done that one. Matthew McFadden on Martial says, hasn't taken the limited chances he got post-Sanchez signing. Obviously harder to do well, but even when played has disappointed. Would still choose him for the World Cup. I think he's just... Matthew, I think that's a fair point, but I just think it's still on Mourinho. Even that is not an excuse. It's still on Mourinho because Martial was having a fantastic season. He literally scored the winner in a 1-0 win 2 days before we signed Sanchez on the left wing, and had scored in the 3 previous games before that. He was having a very, very good season, and then your manager buys somebody and drops you, and you're like, what? And he's just 22. He's a kid. I think psychologically Mourinho has broken his confidence, and if Mourinho had just stuck with him, I mean, I throw that to you as well. What has Sanchez actually done for our season? Not a lot. It disrupted Pogba, it disrupted Martial, it's limited Rashford's chances. Imagine we'd never signed Sanchez. I think we would have had a better end to the season. I still think we would have finished second. We might have done a little bit better in the Champions League, but I think the football would have been a lot better. I think if we'd not bought Sanchez and waited till the summer, Martial would have gone to the World Cup and we would have seen a better United. But Mourinho knows best. Mourinho takes no blame. Said we let other teams catch up to us, and I think he's let the board know, and they agree and back him. That's Michael Hubbard. I am glad that City raised the bar. We are united and we have to beat that, says Bishal. You know what, Bishal, I do agree with you. I think this negativity because Pep signed a new contract. My reality is always up yours to things like that when it comes to United. If people want to raise the bar, like you say, let's raise it higher. Let's not start wallowing in self-pity. We're Manchester United. I'm going back to what I said before. We've got the resources. The club needs to release those resources because Man City, they've got the playing staff, they've got the coach, and they've got the money. They've got the perfect combination, and they're going to keep churning and churning and churning. United, we've got a good manager, we've got some good players, we've got no consistency, we've got no philosophy, and we need more money to be spent. And the board can dictate that. And if they do that, then we can catch City. If they don't, then we won't. And if we don't, then it will be on the board. Sanchez, from what I saw, was abysmal against Watford. He was good against Spurs. Hopefully, he'll be good at the weekend. The blow of Martial not being picked will be the last nail in the coffin. He will ask to leave, 100%, says Stavros M. The situation with Martial, which people sometimes forget, which we've mentioned on the United stand, so I imagine most of you will know as well. The situation with Martial is that he has only got 1 year left on his contract, and next summer we've got the option of a further year. Now, people think, well, we can just make him stay. But the reality is, if he doesn't sign a new contract this summer and we make him stay, then next year he's only got a year left on his contract and he just won't sign it, and then he'll go for nothing. So from United business point of view, if Martial doesn't sign a contract this summer, they'll sell him because that's the only way they're going to get some money for him. So it all depends. It's on Martial. Does he want to sign a new contract? And to be honest with you, it makes me very sad when I say it, but if I was Martial, I'd say, if he's manager, no, I'm off. I would hope that we could sort of say, would you want to go on loan for a year? That might help. Sign a new contract and go on loan, but I don't know. Stavros says, I wanted to say I watched League One a lot and Fabinho has been as awful this year as Bakayoko. Them being split hurt them both. Interesting. I've not seen much of Fabinho this season. I haven't. Fabinho, sorry. If we get the right signings this summer, do we win the title even with Jose's style of play, says David Ashwood? I hope we do. I hope we do. That's all I can say. I don't want to be negative on next season because that's not my style. We don't know what's going to happen and change, and we can hope that there's going to be change. And I hope we can win the title next year. I just don't expect us to. My expectations were higher at the start of this season, but we'll see what happens. The Bonucci rumours are ridiculous, Matthew. I've seen them again. I cannot see that. Cannot see that. And Jay's on about it as well. We are linked with another 31-year-old defender in Bonucci. Are you concerned our budget is being spent on defenders when we're already such a defensively negative team? Well, I did hear something today that Mourinho is really unhappy with our defence. If you saw... The thing is, though, yeah, like Smalling gets criticised. Bailly is always injured. Jones is always injured. And Lindelof's not played enough. But I do think that Smalling should have gone to the World Cup, by the way, if anyone wants to get into that debate. But Smalling gets a lot of stick, but he scored a lot of goals. And if it wasn't for him, we'd have been playing kids this year, especially in November. He stood up to the plate when people were injured again, like Jones and Bailly. Rojo's been disappointing, not really got himself back in the frame. Maybe he's been looking at the World Cup. Bailly, I don't know what's gone wrong there, but Mourinho's obviously lost confidence because it looks like he's going to play Jones and Smalling in the FA Cup. Lindelof started badly, but I think he's getting better and better. And I always said he could be a Vidic, started badly, get better and better. He needs to play week in, week out. I wouldn't sign a centre-back unless it's Umtiti, because I think that's such a bargain for a top-class player. So I wouldn't do that. Bonucci's 31. Alderweireld's nearly 30. So the concern, going back to that, Jay, is our back four isn't great, but the problem isn't really the centre-backs, it's the full-backs. Valencia's getting too old and can't cross and isn't brilliant defensively. Ashley Young's too old, right-footed, playing at left-back and can't defend. So I think if you sorted your full-backs out, it'd make a lot. Most teams get at United down the flanks, and most teams get at United down Ashley Young's flank. So that is the problem. And we'll see a big improvement if we do get a left-back. Fire says, I think Jose will change his style of play, but only if he has the players he can trust to execute it. I hope you're right there, and as I say, there is hope. Congratulations to Mohammed. He's finished his uni exams, so he's excited for the summer. I'm hoping that we're going to see all these people coming on to the United Stand again, because we normally get massive numbers over the summer, and it just makes for a more exciting time. But it's starting to pick up, but I know a lot of people are a lot busy with their exams and stuff at the moment. So if you are, good luck with them. I think it would be a huge mistake to not go after a right back. Valencia has been really poor this year, and I don't think Jose will play Fosu Mensah. Good point from Tommy. I think this year, i.e. January, Valencia's form has dropped. Same with Matic. Tired, maybe. Ruben Neves has missed out on the Portugal World Cup squad. Absolute scenes. Had a blinder of the year. Yes, it was in the Championship, but he's gravy, him. Matthew McFadden. Bit like Ryan Sessegnon. Ryan Sessegnon should be in the England World Cup team. But Southgate pretty much saying that him and Jadon Sancho, they've not done it in the Premier League. I mean, I don't know. I would have took those. Could Lukaku surpass Kane, says Michael Hubbard? Only if he learns a first touch. I would sign either Umtiti or Lenglet, to be honest. You can never have too many good centre-backs, says Stavros. I agree with that. I think if a really good centre-back becomes available, you'd get them, because we haven't got a really good centre-back. We've got a lot of good centre-backs. Probably Sanchez was promised that he would start each game, and that's the reason Martial was benched. From next season, it might change, says Bichel. Yeah, because Martial will be gone. And Kevin says, we desperately need to introduce the youth into our squad. They bring a hunger to succeed and impress, along with the ones with age who have wisdom and experience to win trophies. I mean, I sort of touched on it on the United Stand. I think it was really, really irresponsible of wherever it came out that Kieran McKenna was going to be assistant manager last weekend, because I got quite excited about that, because he's under-18 coach. The under-18s have been absolutely fantastic. And people were putting it out that he's going to be the next assistant manager. And I remember saying at the time, I thought that's a load of nonsense. And lo and behold, it's a load of bloody nonsense. And that would have been a really dynamic, forward-thinking appointment. Under-18 coach, got him playing great football, knows all about them, becomes assistant manager to Jose Mourinho. And you know what's coming then. He's going to be big on attacking football and developing our youth. And it didn't happen. And it's bloody annoying, because it was nailed on. Nearly went a bit blind then. Could Lukaku surpass Keane? No. Fosu Mensah has all the tools to become a world-class right-back, says David Ashwood. His positional sense isn't great. I'm just going to slip my glasses on because my eyes are hurting a bit. His positional sense isn't great, to be honest. And that's what you'll get from Crystal Palace fans. But he can develop. Mark, do you think we can win the title with Mourinho? I don't personally think we can, and I don't feel he'll understand our club or what we stand for, says Mohammed. He wins the title everywhere he goes. That's why I want him to stay. There is part of me thinks that something miraculous could happen next year. There's also part of me that thinks this is only going to get worse. It's going to be a long goodbye, and it could go very, very toxic. I hope he turns it around. I think whatever happens, we'll make some positive signings in the summer. We'll go on tour. We'll start the season well, and there'll be positivity at the start of the season. I think the reality of whichever way it's going to go will bite around November time. Because let's not forget, Jose Mourinho, the last 2 seasons, has won the first 3 games. So I would expect that. Premier League fixtures are out in a couple of weeks. Manchester United flirting with disaster since we lost to City at Old Trafford. Would you rather, that's from Michael Hubbard. Liam McCormack says, would you rather sell Martial or Sanchez if Jose was not at the club? I'd sell Sanchez, Liam. I would. For many reasons, but the biggest one is that Martial needs developing, and Manchester United are a development club. Martial's 22, Sanchez is going to be 30, and I'd bin Sanchez off. I would. He's a good player, but Martial every day of the week. What do you lot think? Jay Coulter says, first time on here, good format, plenty more viewers' opinions. United Stand is great, but with its size, it's difficult to hear from the viewers. Yes, Jay, that's part of the reason we're doing this. And make sure you're on the quiz night on a Tuesday. That's always a good laugh at 8:30. And the Q&As, we'll probably do a few more of them. And the ramble with Robbie, I'm going to try and do one tomorrow. I've got a busy day tomorrow, though. It's my stepdad's birthday, so I've got to go to Nottingham on the evening and stuff. And obviously, I'm written off on Saturday for the FA Cup. We're going to try and do it. But I like it as well. I like the fact that we can just relax, and I like doing it after the show, which can be, very, very intense, and then you just come in here and relax. Matthew McFadden says, next season will go one of 2 ways. It'll either be a miracle and we'll somehow win the league, or Jose will walk or get fired by Christmas. Couldn't have put it better myself. That's exactly what I think. Just having a look on Patreon. If people are watching on Patreon, remember, if you click on the visual of me on Patreon, and you'll see the YouTube in the bottom right hand corner, that will take you through to YouTube, which is our own private area. Hadi says, Jose Mourinho said he will have no assistant manager, but he also said he will bring in new tactical and fitness coach, and for the first time in his career, he accepts a player in his staff Why you didn't react with that in a positive way, especially 1 week before you was asking for that? In Jose we trust. That's from Hadi. And he says, I believe you're well known, over 200,000 subscribers, and all people respect you. I don't think your opinion don't matter. It really does. I see a lot of people on Twitter speaking your words, copy paste. You should know that you can make United fans more united, and you should focus on that more, in my opinion. Jose will stay here 1 more year at least, so we should back him no matter what. In Jose we trust. I think that's a really interesting comment to get on the Patreon page. Ideally, I would like to have read that on the United Stand, because I think it's a very, very good comment. So let me deal with that in 2 points. So one, I should back what he's doing with his assistant. Well, look, I was happy when Rui Faria was going, because I felt that we were going to move away from this archaic, defensive-minded way of doing things. And I was excited that he was talking about Carrick, and I was excited about this fake news that we were going to get Kieran McKenna. But now what he's saying is, even the papers are saying he sort of changed his stance now, because he's going to bring in people he's worked with before. So what we're going to see is somebody that Mourinho's worked with before. Well, that may as well be Rui Faria staying. So that's why I'm not positive about it, Hadi, because it's not a new coach coming in with new ideas like somebody he's not worked with before. Lots of examples of that. But a Steve Clarke, a Varanka, a VS Boas, these are basically Rui Faria. They're all people who've learnt from Mourinho. They're disciples. Jose Mourinho is Christ, and everybody else are the saints who've gone off and worked elsewhere but started off with Jesus or Jose. So that's why I'm not positive about this news. Now, we don't know. It's not factual yet, but I'm not positive about Rui Faria being replaced by another Rui Faria, because that explains that one. In relation to the other point that you made about, well, the United Stand's a big community, and when we say things that can feed into a community, and we should all, Jose's going to be here for another year, so we should spread positivity. 2 things on that. One, we never started the United Stand to have 200,000 subscribers. We started the United Stand, there was 4 of us every Sunday night, once a week, every Sunday night. Me, Rich, Kev and Martin. Just fans on a Sunday night for an hour on a Google Hangout talking. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And now you're getting 2-3 videos a day. It's got its own branding, everything. And it's grown massively. But the one thing that's very important is that it must stay consistent to what it was from the start. Otherwise, like anything in life, you'll lose track of who you really are. The United Stand, I don't apologise. I can't be an apologist. Of course there are negative elements, but it's nothing different to what it was from the very first day to what it is now. It's real fan opinion swayed by real life events. And I don't take responsibility for people being negative. And I don't take responsibility if people think I'm being negative, because that negativity is being fed to us from the club. The football's boring. Players that are flair and young are being marginalised. The manager doesn't look interested and looks negative. The manager's taking a pop at ex-players who are trying to get this club back to where it was with their comments, and they're being criticised. The board is continually investing in defensive-minded coaches. So the negativity that I convey or anybody else conveys isn't wake up in the morning, as I've said before, and I'm going to be negative. I want to wake up in the morning and be positive about Manchester United. I am positive. You are right. Jose Mourinho will be here for another year. And I back Jose Mourinho because he wins titles, and that's what I want him to do. And if he does it, I will be miraculous. And I am Jose in, and I always have been. But I will not be blinded. I will never be blinded in this whole "in Jose we trust." It's a bit like I will jump off a cliff because Jose tells me to do it. That's not going to happen. And that's what the United Stand's never been about. That I'm not about that. And I've not been about that in my life. I've worked for people I really respect, but if they say something I disagree with, I'll disagree. It doesn't mean I don't back them. So I do back Mourinho, but he's getting a lot wrong at the moment. But I don't want him to be sacked, and he must be given next year. And I'm intrigued to see how it's going to go. But I'm not going to start putting out some sort of cult mantra of positivity, because that's not real, and that's not what the United Stand is. Liam McCormack says maybe people that have worked with Mourinho before have changed the way that they play football. Steve Clarke could be the one I would like, Liam, because He's done quite well. He's done quite well. Steve Clarke would be the one I would go with. Varanka manages Forest, who apparently I support because I was born in Nottingham. And I phoned one of my mates up today about it, and I said, "What's Varanka like?" Because I don't watch him. And he said, "Well organised, a well organised team." And there you go. And Villas Boas was basically a mini Mourinho. Man United sandwiched between a rock and a hard place. With City and Liverpool, we need to sign correctly or become a top 4 club, says Michael Hubbard. I don't think Liverpool are ever going to be a title contender with Klopp there, to be honest. Kevin O'Callaghan says, been there from the start, mate. Love the United stand, the only honest forum around. Integrity comes with honesty. Integrity does come with honesty in life, and I think that's right by Kevin. We've always said it how it is. We've always been had that honesty. And that's why some of our videos in the past have tanked. Because we've gone down, I've gone live and I've said something that I really believe in. And sometimes you've got 70% of the audience with you. Sometimes you've got 90%. Sometimes you've only got 30% and your video's going to get tanked. And most of the videos that I've done that have tanked have been straight after a game where emotions running high. And even I, 24 hours, don't agree with what I've said after a game. But that's the brilliance of live, isn't it? Your instant reaction is not always right. But the honesty's always there. Win the title ASAP, the title void grows, then focus on mentality and youth. I agree with that, Michael Hubbard. Steve Clarke would be interesting too, taking Kilmarnock from rock bottom to the SPL in top half in just over half a year. He's done mad things with Killy. Yes, Matthew, he'd be the one I'd go with. Laurent Blanc is the next United manager for me, similar to Poch, but knows the culture of United. David Ashwood, yes, I've said this many times. I would love to get Laurent Blanc as our coach. He needs to get a bloody job, though. He's out of a job. He needs a job. United won't just give him a job. He needs to get a job, and he's been out of a job for quite a while. Stavros says, if Klopp contests for the title next year, would that make you respect him more, or would that make you want Jose out? I think you're right with the last sentence. If Klopp contests the title next year, I would respect him more, and I'd have to say Jose out, unless they're contesting the title with us and we win it. If it's Liverpool and City going for the title and we're nowhere near it, Jose's got to go anyway. And that's not being Jose out, by the way. 3 years and we drop from second, no, he'd have to go. Hate to repeat, but I learned today we have a buyback clause with Depay. Can you see us inserting such a clause with Martial, says Jay? It depends if the player wants a buyback clause. It really does. I would want one to be there. Matthew's talking about Alex. Tommy Herod says, I think you should say what you think. Most of us are here because we don't want a scripted channel. It's never been scripted. The most I've ever done is I'll write a couple of notes down, and they're not even notes. They're like a word, which will just prompt something in my head. It's always been go live. And a lot of it comes off the live comments. That's the great thing about this. I can't say that. Anyway, I've overrun. I was only meant to do half an hour. And I've got stuff to do, but I really do enjoy this, and I'm even thinking that we might even start knocking it up to a more regular, more than once a week Q&A, because it's really good, and I think this time of the year there's so much going on as well. So keep spreading the word on it. Let's grow the Patreon. I think we only want to ever get up to 1,000, which, you know, I think it will happen at some point, but we'll just close the group then. So it's not something that we want to grow and grow and grow. We just want to have a closed community as a members club, and then we'll close it. So spread the word to people that you think you'd like to come in and get involved. And thanks everybody who's joined us tonight, because we went over 20 people watching live, which is something we've not done on this before. So really enjoyed it, everybody. Yeah, I think we're in for an interesting summer, but I keep forgetting we've got an FA Cup game. I think it will hit me tomorrow. Massive game that is. Really looking forward to that. And we're going to be live for a long time on the United Stand on Saturday, building it up. So I'll see you then. Thanks everyone tonight, and I'll speak to you soon.